Hey there, everybody. Mandy and Karis here, and we are doing this a little bit differently this time. We're not going live, but we are going to share the recording with you, of course, through audio and video, just like we've been doing. So it's just going to be a little bit different of a setup. But first of all, we just wanted to tell you about a couple of things that are going on right now. We are looking for different places where we can go and speak to you, meet you, have conversations with you, and just get to know all of you. So if you know of any churches, events, or anything like that that would like to hear about modern day Christian women stuff, we're your gals. Anybody that can put up with us, we would love to be able to go and talk to them.
Yes.
It's really hard to get along with, of course.
So difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, we are. We're so difficult. So if you have been touched by any of these podcasts or anything like that, please reach out to us or reach out to certain events or churches and just tell them about us. Tell them about our group, tell them about what we do, and you could just get us in touch with Karis or get them in touch with Karis or us. So we would just love that. But if you are not a part of our group, we will add the link, the Facebook group. We will add the link to this video at the end. If you are on the podcast, all you have to do is go to the PurposeFULL. Purpose as in PURPOSE. Full is all capital FULL. So Purposeful Woman. So you can go and find us there too. So we're going to get started today, and this is probably going to be the first of two different things that we're doing. So about depression. So we've all been through it in some form or fashion, probably. If you don't feel like you've been through it, you probably know somebody who has, for sure.
Yeah. 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 So like Mandy said, we're going to be talking about depression over the next couple of podcasts. And what we would kind of like to do with this first one is just kind of talk about what depression is, who may go through depression, what it feels like, what it looks like, and how you can overcome it. Because I know a lot of times, I know even for my own self, there were times that I thought there's no way I'm ever going to get through this, but you will overcome it. So if you are there, if you're in the middle of depression right now, you will see the light at the end of the tunnel. I promise it's there. I know right now it feels like you can't see it, but it is there. And so we're going to kind of talk about that on this podcast. And then on the next podcast that we do with depression, we're going to kind of share our stories with you guys because we get it. We've been there. We still have our moments when we go there, but we know how to get out of there. But we want you to hear our personal struggle, our personal story with it, because it may be something that you can relate to as a woman, as a mom, as a business owner, whatever it may be. And so we just kind of want to share that with you. But
Right.
I will tell you this, with depression, who does it affect? It can affect anybody. Hello, my name's Karis. I have survived depression.
Right.
I get it. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a college graduate. And I went through depression. And studies show that 1 out of 5 women at some point in their life will go through depression. Right. It doesn't matter if you come from a loving family, if you come from a family that is not loving. You could be a doctor, you could be a lawyer, you could be a drug addict, you could be an alcoholic, you could be a teenager right now, a teenager, and you are going through depression. It doesn't care who you are, it doesn't care what your lifestyle is. You could be somebody rich and famous. I mean, we have all seen that. People who are famous and in Hollywood, and they commit suicide, they take their life, and we come to find out that they're going through all these things and they hit it so well. So depression, you're going to find it does not have a certain person that it attacks. It will just attack anyone that it can take down, anyone that it can deplete their nutrition, go in and just affect them negatively. Anyone who just has just this part of their life where they feel worthless, useless, purposeless and hopeless. So it can affect anybody. It could be affecting someone that you're sitting beside at work right now if you're listening to this podcast. You just never know who it's going to affect. You never know what it's going to look like, right, Mandy? I mean, because so many people deal with depression in different ways, and it has so many different faces.
Right, right. I mean, and I even think about people in the ministry go through it.
Yes.
Nobody's nobody's perfect, and I mean, you're not supposed to be perfect. And I think that's where some of that comes from. You kind of want to be that perfect person.
Yeah.
So what does it look like? It's not always about sadness, because a lot of people think, oh, she's not sad, she doesn't look depressed. And it's just like we talked about with anxiety. Anxiety, you can
Yeah.
kind of, mask that pretty well. I know I've masked both at times.
Right.
And I wasn't being honest with myself either. Wasn't being honest with God. Um, and I've noticed that whenever you run from problems, you know, that's whenever the depression comes in, a lot of times. I know for myself, whenever you just run from problems, or either you're suppressing your problems, or you're not really giving it to God. And I read something the other day that said, when you run from your problems, you run from your blessings. So you're basically
Oh,
running from God.
good.
And so
Yeah.
that really kind of just hinders your thought process too. And so it doesn't look sad, like sadness. You could see somebody every week and never even know that they were depressed unless they said something to you. But it's those people that you really that are a little bit, maybe you can tell that there's something timid about them. There's something that
Mm-hmm.
makes them a little uneasy. And sometimes they can mask it very well. But if you look really deeply, and if you really look and pray about it, about certain people that just kind of give you that little bit of I know I use that word all the time,
Yeah.
discernment, but you kind of have to and get to know people. That's one of the things. They may feel a little left out at times, not because of you and what you've done, but because that's just kind of their nature. They'll back away from things. Wouldn't you agree? I mean,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
and it's not, it's, it doesn't look the same for everybody,
Yeah.
but no matter what, it's you all, if you looked really deeply, you would probably realize it, because most of the time you look back and you're like, oh, that kind of makes sense, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I was just sitting here and thinking, when I was going through the worst part of my depression, my husband and I, we were leading worship, but, and I would always find ways when I was in front of people to, have a smile on my face and always have an encouraging word for everybody around me. But I would always kind of linger to the background, you know what I mean? Whenever we would go places, which I still do this just because I don't like to be the first person to get somewhere. But I would always tell my husband, let's get there kind of late so we can sneak in the back. And then when it's over, we can leave really
But
quickly. Or
that's your personality too.
it's, yeah,
Yeah.
and I, again, this is part of my personality, but I sit on the end of the row of anywhere we go just because I just want out, and I feel like sometimes that's what depression kind of, you know, just get me out. I need to know where all the exits are, so I can escape.
Yes, and by the way, whenever me and Kara stayed together at Disney, we were both trying to find where the exits were. We were trying to figure out where we were going to sleep because of, yes, yeah. Anyway, that
Yeah.
was totally rabbit trail, but it was kind of funny.
Yeah. If you ever stay anywhere with me and Mandy, we will not sleep beside the door. Like, because if somebody comes in, they're going to get you first. I
We
mean,
will put you in between us and the door. I'm just like,
it's so true. Look, you get what you see with us now. Oh man,
it is what it is. We
it
don't
is what it is.
hold
Yeah.
that.
I'm still that way. And my husband will tell you when we travel, he's like, really? Can you not just sleep on the same side of the bed? I can't. I cannot. The door just messes me up.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, sorry.
Anyway, rabbit
Chasing the
trail.
rabbit there. Yeah, chasing the rabbit. But really, if you think about it with depression, people who are there going through it, you really are wanting to escape. Like
Right,
you're wanting to get out. You're looking for a way to protect yourself. You're
right,
looking for a way to protect yourself because you're afraid of it. Makes you feel like um, you're a failure if
right,
other people know that you're going through this. And so you're protecting yourself and you feel like you're protecting them
right.
because you don't want them to know this part of you because you're afraid of, are they going to reject me? So you're protecting yourself from rejection.
Mhm.
You're protecting yourself from those fears that you have in you because depression, it just makes you feel fearful
Of
about
everything.
everything. I mean, and your mind can go, it can go to crazy places and it's scary
Mhm.
where it can take you. And so so it's like you're just trying to protect yourself, but it really does feel like it is suffocating you and sucking the life physically out of you.
Mhm.
It wants to take every bit of your life away from you physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It will just
Right.
drain you dry. I mean, it just takes it all out. Every nutrient out of your body, every vitamin that you need, those synapses in your brain. I mean, it all goes together and it just takes it away from you. And so that's why when you hear a lot of times where you hear people talking about, they just felt like they didn't have any hope. They just felt like they were not needed here. That is a real true feeling. And I did get to that point. I remember how real and how scary that was. And it was like there were times I could not physically get myself up. I wanted to get up. I wanted to get out of that time, that pit, and I couldn't because depression had sucked so much out of me and out of my life. And it just made me feel, it made me feel less than, and it made me feel nothing like what God intended for us to feel like. I mean, God tells us that we are fearfully and wonderfully made, and I felt, did not feel wonderful at all. And I felt very fearful for a lot of different things. And so that's kind of that's what it makes you feel like. And it makes you feel like there's no way out. It makes you feel like a burden. I hear people tell me this and it hurts my heart so much. I've heard it so much in the last couple of months. People who are going through this, they just say, I feel like I'm a burden. I feel like
Mhm.
I'm a burden to you. I'm sorry that I'm bothering you.
Right,
I'm sorry, that I'm bothering my family. And you're not. You're not a bother. You're not a burden. That's what it tells you. It tells you lies. Depression is a huge liar,
right,
major liar, because it wants to get in your head and just tell you all these things that are not true. And it will attack you. I mean, it's the enemy attacking you because he knows where he can attack you the most and hit you the hardest.
right.
So, I mean, for me, it was failure. You're a failure. You're not good enough. You can't be a worship leader. You can't be a speaker. You're not a great mom. You're not needed. Things that had to do with my body, just a lot of different things. And it just felt like it was a ping pong ball going
Right.
back and forth
Mhm.
in my head. And it wouldn't stop. And so, um, it's very hard. And so just imagine you're feeling all of that. You're feeling, suffocated. You're feeling like you have this ping pong ball going on in your head. And at the same time, you're wearing a mask to try to hide it
A lot
and
of
not
stuff
deal
going
with
on
it.
at one time.
And it's a lot going on. So if maybe you're there and you're like, yes, I totally get what she's saying. Or
Right,
maybe you're like, I totally understand now what my friend is going through because you haven't been through it, but your friend is, and now you get it. And they're wearing a mask because they're terrified
right.
of letting anybody in to know what they're feeling, to know what they're going through. And so just put yourself there for a minute and just imagine dealing with that day in, day out for months,
Mhm.
weeks, years. For some
Mhm.
people, it's years. For some people, it's a part of their life.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. And you were saying just a second ago that people like, that are going through depression, they feel like a burden. It just kind of
Mm-hmm.
hit me all feel like a burden at some
Yeah.
point. I actually was just saying to Karis earlier, I said, you know, I wish she'll, for those of you who don't know, I did find out that I have a genetic heart disease and about a month ago, and it's just been a whirlwind for the last month. And so, of course, Karis will always, every morning, how are you doing? How are you feeling? And I told her, I said, I wish that just one day I could say, I feel great. I feel like such a whiner. Actually, what I said was a wiener whiner. Every time I say, today's not a great day, or because I'm honest with her. There are certain people that I can't be as honest with, but I'm honest with her. And so you almost feel like a burden whenever you're complaining, or you feel like you're complaining and you're not. You just need to get it out. And sometimes that's just what you need, is you need that safe place that you can just get it out.
Yeah.
And that if it truly is a safe place, which Karis is a safe place for me. So, if it's truly a safe place, they're not going to think of you as a burden. They'll never think of you as a burden. If anything, they'll love you more for being honest, and they'll love you more for saying, hey, I got an issue and I've got to get this out.
Right. And when you were saying that, it just reminded me that is a lie from the enemy, that you're a
Absolutely.
burden and you're a bother, because he knows if he can get you to isolate yourself and pull back from everything slowly but surely, he knows what he wants to do, and he wants to steal your life from you. He wants to destroy what God has for you and me and for everybody that he uses depression to take down. And so when that thought comes into your head, I'm sorry that I'm a bother or burden, you are not. And you push through that.
Right.
That's one way you know that you can overcome, because if he can isolate you, that's where he wants to take you down, because he knows you're not going to tell anybody. You're going to wear that smile on your face and you're going to move forward, but he is isolating you. So that's one place where, even where you say that, you feel like you stop, like Mandy was saying, and you say, you know what, I am not a burden to them. They love me and they can help me, and I'm not going to isolate myself and give in to this. And so that is one of the most important things that you can do as you begin to overcome depression, right, is don't isolate yourself. Right. Don't do it.
You don't have to get out. You don't have to really get out of the house right now. I save my energy for 2 days of the week. That's whenever I go to church or I'm speaking or whatever. But the rest of the time I'm in the house most of the time because I'm resting. But I could easily pull myself away, and I could easily, and Karis knows this too, I could. That's why she checks on me. That's why, and you have to choose not to do that, because if you get sucked into that, you're going to go right back to where you were, and that's where you don't want to be, because
right,
that's where the enemy wants you to be.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and like you said, that's one of the ways to overcome it. Is to talk about it, get it out. That is what this podcast and our events and our meet and greets with people, that's what they're about, is talking about the real issues in life and actually getting them out and saying, yeah, this happens to me too. Because I don't know if you're around a group of people sometimes, and you may say something like, my kid is doing this and she's driving me crazy. And then somebody says, mine's doing that too. And you're like, you're my people. I like you because you're going to admit it to me that you're going through something. And that's what this is about. You've got to have, not just here at the Purposeful Woman, you've got to have somebody that's in your corner at your church, at your home, whoever that person is, you've got to have somebody. And sometimes you have to have counseling. There's nothing wrong with that. Y'all, I know pastors who go to marriage counseling, not because their marriages are bad, but because they want to keep their marriages great.
Yes.
Guys, that should put a total new perspective on everything, because we all look at pastors as having this perfect thing going on, and they're going through things just like you are, so, and then praying. I know we talked about this earlier, but you've got to talk to God. When you run from your problems, you're running from your blessings and you're running from God. You're saying, I've got control of this. And whenever you're going through depression, that's really hard.
Yeah.
Really hard. I've before I went through depression, I watched somebody who I truly loved, my husband, going through it, and I didn't really understand it so much all the time. But I would see him going through things, emotional things, but I have to say, every time he kind of backed away from God was whenever it got a lot harder. And then he'd have to just push through
Yeah.
that wall again. But no matter what, I mean, he's there. Whether
Yeah.
you pull away from him, you push forward, you take 2 steps back and 1 step forward, he's there to meet you to take that second step and that third step and that. So you've got to stay in scripture. You got to pray. And sometimes I know that whenever you're going through depression, you can't pray. That's where those people that you love, like I was saying, Karis, and for me, that will stand in the gap for you and say, I know you're going through a tough time. And you know what? You may be going through the tough time right now, but they may go through a tough time in 6 months and they may need you just as much. So that's where that balance comes in too, that give and take. And, you made Kara's touched on this a little bit before. I know a big outlet for me is exercise. I let off some steam exercising. I'm one of those weird people that I actually like to exercise, but if I don't exercise, I can really go inward really easy. Diet. I know, some people will argue with Karis and I about this, but it's the truth, y'all. There's so many things that are floating around these days, and a lot of people will say, oh, well, that didn't affect my mom and dad's depression, or they had depression. Foods aren't the same as they
Yeah.
were, whenever we were growing up. They are not the same whenever your grandma grew up. Things are different. So you really have to watch your diet, and that's a totally different podcast in itself. Changing your thoughts, but God, you've got to ask God to help you change those thoughts. I know we talk about all the time, me and Karis have talked about having sticky notes all over our house. You have to put scripture on those sticky notes so you can see them and speak them out loud so you can remind yourself how awesome you are.
Yeah.
Because, that's one of the best ways that you can change your thought system is to look at something every morning, but not just look at it, but say it, repeat it. Your environment, sometimes I know you're probably sitting here thinking, my environment kind of stinks at work, or my environment at home's really hard, and I get that, or have a negative environment. Well, of course, God doesn't want you in anything like that, but it happens. So you've got to, with every negative thing that's said to you, you've got to feed yourself 2 positive things right back.
Yeah.
Or you've got to have somebody that you can call or text and say, look, this hurt. What do I do? I actually called a friend today and said, I just need somebody to say I'm being ridiculous. And she was like, okay. I mean, you need somebody that can hold you accountable. And then let's see, I wrote down some things here. Sorry, guys. I lost my train of thought, which I was telling Karis earlier. I lose it a lot anyway here lately.
You're doing good.
I mean, there's all kinds of things that can interrupt and that can play into the overcoming. It's not just going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
It's an everyday occurrence, and you may have to overcome it every single day. And I know we're going to have to wrap this up here in just a second, and I was going to get Karis to talk real fast too, but I saw this actually today, and it really kind of spoke to me, because whenever you're in depression, you feel like you're in a drought. You feel like you're dried up. You feel like there's, like Kara said, no hope. And I saw this and it spoke to me about tonight. It said, God isn't calling you out of the drought, He's calling the drought out of you.
Mhm.
And that's powerful because if you really think about it, if you're in scripture, you're in prayer, you're in all of that, He's going to pull that drought out of you. You don't have to do the work.
Yeah.
You don't have to pull it yourself out of that drought. So it really spoke to me, even through situations that I'm going through right now. I was like, that's really good.
Yeah. That's really good. I mean, and that's how much he loves us and he cares about us. He knows where the end is. Like he knows the whole story. We don't know the whole story. And I know it'll sound crazy to some, but I'm thankful that I went through what I went through with depression because it made me see things a lot differently. It made me see life a lot differently. I'm very thankful, like Mandy was talking about. I had a counselor, and I thank God that He brought her into my life. I know I've shown this before. Scripture. I mean, I still have this. I still have these scriptures that I open up and I look at and I read and I just speak and I say them out loud and I ask God to help me believe it, and those things will help you overcome. Like Mandy said, it's over time. It's step by step. My doctor was a huge help for me. You guys, sometimes you go to the doctor for a lot of different issues. So depression is another thing that you can go to the doctor about and you can get help. They will help you through. They're not wanting to, my doctor wasn't wanting to mask anything. She was wanting to help me get to where I could deal with the issues that I had going on deep down inside. And so talk to your doctor, like Mandy was talking about, your counselor. Get in the Word. Get around people who will get in the Word for you,
Right.
and worship. If
Yeah.
you can just turn some worship music on, I'll tell you, the enemy really tried to steal that from me. He tried to take it from me. I mean, like I said, my husband and I, we were leading worship, and he still tries to do that. And I know that he attacks me there. But when you can turn worship music on and just surrender, and you take the focus off of you and you put it on God, and you just say, God, I may feel stinky and feel like poo right now, but I'm going to worship you because you're still the same God. You still love me. You're
Right.
on my side. You make all things new and you make all things work for the good. And you just do those things and you will begin over time to see how much God loves you, and you will begin to see the light. Um, that's there. I know you may not see it in that dark pit right now, but it is there. So again, this is the first part of our depression podcast series. The next one we do, we're going to share our stories with you guys and just kind of let you know our journey through that hard time and how we kind of dealt with those things. And like Mandy said, we are on iTunes. So you can subscribe to our podcast. You can find us and download it. And whenever we put those new podcasts on, it'll automatically be there for you to listen to. And please feel free to share with your friends that maybe are going through things like this or other issues in their life. We have already touched on a lot of different topics, and we have a lot more to go. And we really would love to come and serve you by speaking to your group. Like Mandy said at the beginning, whether it is at your church, with a women's conference, whatever it may be, we want to come. We want to see you. We want to talk to you. We want to be face to face with you, and we want to just get real with you guys, not just through the podcast, not just through this video, but through face to face. And we just believe like this is the next step of
Yes.
what God is calling the purposeful woman to. And so we would love to just come and just be with you wherever you may be. We're willing to travel. We're willing to come to
Yes.
you. So we are very excited about that. And you can contact Mandy or you can contact myself. So yeah, so I hope this was helpful for you guys.
I hope so too. I know. Well, thank you so much for being here. Again, thank you for tuning in, like Kara said. And we will be back with the second half and, of course, some other stuff in between. So join the group and on Facebook and like us on iTunes and subscribe. And we'll see y'all soon. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.